Headshot is a 2016 Indonesian action film. It was the first project for Iko Uwais following The Raid 2. I've already reviewed both of the Raid films on this channel. I absolutely love them both, so make sure you check out that video via the iCard or the end screen or the description or whatever. Also check out my review for The Night Comes For Us, which is made by the same team as Headshot. Well, almost anyway. Headshot was directed by the Moe brothers. The Night Comes For Us was directed by one of the Moe brothers. If you're unfamiliar with the Moe brothers, they aren't actually brothers. They're a filmmaking duo who both have Moe in their first names, Kimo and Timo. They started off deep in the horror genre before branching out into more action-centered fare with Headshot. And this has been their last collaboration, actually, at least so far. In an interview with the Jakarta Post, they said that they were strategically splitting apart for a few years to try and grow independently as filmmakers. So maybe they'll reunite and both be better for it. With Headshot being the first Iko Uwais-led actioner since The Raid 2, I had perhaps unreasonably high expectations. Headshot didn't live up to these crazy high expectations, but it's still a good time for the right crowd. The plot is paper thin. It's the same badass killer has amnesia and people from his past are trying to kill him. It's that same plot line that you've seen many, many times before. There's really nothing new as far as the core plot is concerned, but there is an original flourish with the bad guys. The main antagonist is effective, and even more so are his team of baddies. I love when an action film takes the time to build up the antagonist's henchmen, so that when it comes time for a hero to kick their asses, they're more like mini-bosses instead of just cannon fodder. Headshot does this excellently right from the second action sequence. We have two threatening secondary baddies set up wonderfully, and over the course of the first hour, we're introduced to a whole team of distinctive villains. This aspect of the film is very well done. One of the first things you'll notice when looking at Headshot is just how much is owed to the Raid films that came before. I think the Raid films were largely responsible for sort of opening up the Indonesian film scene to the rest of the world, and the impact of those Raid films can be directly seen in the action films that follow. Everything, even down to the color grading, feels like it comes from the Raid 2. The camera work attempts Gareth Evans' kinetic handheld style, but honestly, no one executes it as well as he does. The camera work in Headshot works for the most part, maybe gets a tiny bit too shaky during a couple of moments, but more distracting is when the film attempts hidden cuts to make shots seem longer than they are. These didn't really work for me, and they stood out in an extremely distracting way. There's also moments where the cinematography style changes to a distracting degree, for just one or two shots. There's a shot that happens quite late in the film that feels like it was pulled straight from The Matrix, where the motion stops and the camera swings down to a new position before the action picks back up. The problem is that this type of shot hasn't been established as part of the visual language of the film, so it feels out of place when it only happens once or twice in the tail end of the film. The Matrix made sure to incorporate shots like that from the very beginning to get the viewer acclimated to that distinctive style. In Headshot, the same type of move comes across as jarring. There are a handful of moments that are pulled directly from the Raid 1 and 2 in a way that could either be homage or maybe leaning a little bit too hard on the inspiration. Moments like when Iko dives through the bus window and the camera flips over. Or later on in that same scene when he's banging someone's head against the side of the bus and they slide lower, directly matching moments from the Raid films. There are moments like this in the choreography and shot composition throughout. Now let's talk about the action. With the plot being so paper thin, it's the action that we're all going into Headshot for. We're given just enough to care, just enough to set the stakes by building the relationship between our protagonist and the doctor who takes care of him. There's a well-performed scene in the rain between the two right before shit goes down, and it does a good job of getting you emotionally invested. Just enough to be involved emotionally in the action and bloodshed that follows. The action mostly works, but it's a little bit of a mixed bag. There's far more good than bad to the action, but I have to say that the gun action did not really work for me in this one. That's not to say that 100% of the gun action scenes didn't do it for me. The shotgun sequence with the desks works quite well, actually. But the other guns just don't feel right in the world of the film. There's something about the VFX for the muzzle flashes and smoke that sticks out in a distracting way. They look YouTube-y, if you know what I mean. Not very cinematic. The way people use their guns or have guns used against them goes beyond the realm of believability. Far too frequently in this film. Like in the first action scene, this guard shoots this guy and then just waits quite a while for the guy to slowly recover, take aim, and shoot him in the back. It's like, what were you waiting for? The guy's clearly still standing, holding his gun, and intending to use it. You have plenty of bullets, you just waited to fire until the guy shot you a whole bunch. It's off-putting, and much of the gun action was carried out in this way. There are also far too many instances of Iko surviving purely because his enemies have terrible aim, even with enemies who were shown to be great shots earlier on in the film. The non-gun action fares much, much better in my eyes. There are plenty of badass and absolutely brutal moments from the combat. Got me verbalizing a couple of times. The shortest mark of a brutal moment is when you get the viewer to say, "Oh shit," out loud. There are actually a couple of Jackie Chan-esque moments in the action, which I was not expecting. They don't feel at all like Jackie Chan moments in execution because the tone of Headshot is so much darker, but if you think about it, Iko being soaked in gasoline and struggling with a guy who has a lighter and blowing out the flame, that's totally a Jackie Chan moment in concept. So is when he's handcuffed in the police station and he has to use the table to defend himself. The horror roots of the Mo brothers show through pretty strongly. The film isn't as jaw-droppingly gory as The Night Comes For Us was, but it is certainly gorier than your average action film. And the shooting that happens on the bus is horrific in an entirely different kind of way. The practical effects and makeup are all great, and some of the gnarlier effects for the bad guys are quite satisfying. The sheer amount of punishment that Iko has taken by the end of the film is staggering. He's absolutely wrecked by the time he gets to the final fight. And that's another thing I love to see in an action film. That all the ass-kicking isn't easy for our protagonist. It's a challenge, and he does struggle and does get hurt along the way. The John Wick films do this well. My main complaint with the action of The Night Comes For Us was that the choreography at times felt very posy, meaning it felt like the fighters would stop what they were doing and strike a pose while an effect played out, just to allow a beat for the audience without having a place in the choreography for that beat. That same posy style is still here in Headshot, which makes sense since it came first. There are less time-consuming effects that play out mid-choreography than The Night Comes For Us, though, so it's a bit less of a distraction, but definitely still present. There are some moments that I think just don't work on more of a script level. The ending closure to Julia Stell's character is one of these moments. I think the idea of a mini redemption arc is really good in concept, but the execution of it felt a little slipshod, you know? Like, this awkward situation was reverse engineered to get to that moment instead of arriving at it naturally. Another moment that just feels a little bit odd is when Iko arrives at the bus. The bad guys just shot almost everyone on the bus looking for Iko. Then when he shows up, no one seems to think, oh, this might be the guy we're looking for. And luckily for him, now none of them have guns. I get that it's different people who actually did the shooting, but they're all still on the same team and presumably all know the goal. It's just a little odd. It's not too much of a big deal. The two-part action sequence in the police station and the fight by the well are the definite action highlights. The baddie from the well's weapon of choice gave me flashes of Donnie Yen and SPL, which is a good thing. The ending fight is pretty good, but it feels less substantial after the two previously mentioned sequences. There might be a little bit of a sag for the cliché story near the beginning, but once all the setup is out of the way, the film never really lets up. The second hour is especially breakneck paced, with hardly any downtime at all between one action sequence and the next. In the end, I can recommend Headshot to fans of the Raid films, but it doesn't hold a candle to them. It also doesn't stack up too well beside The Night Comes For Us, which I think kind of perfected the gore-infused brutal action that was on display in Headshot. It's a good time with some drawbacks. I don't think it'll stand as a classic, but for fans of Iko Uwais, definitely check it out. He's such a great leading action star, and I wish him a long and successful career. Check out my videos for the Raid films and The Night Comes For Us if you haven't seen them already, and make sure you subscribe to this channel and stick around for more reviews, video essays, original short films, and all kinds of stuff. I'll see you in the next video.